What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Monday. Glad to have everybody along. Hope everyone had a great weekend wherever you may be. Closer and closer to the NFL draft, as this is the last week before we get to actual draft week. So we're going to go through how a couple quarterback prospects could dramatically change the Titans 2024 NFL draft. So we'll discuss three quarterbacks that are not as likely to be the top 2 or 3 picks in this draft, but you never know when it gets to draft season and how the Titans could be impacted by quarterback draft, right? Everybody says, all the old heads in the NFL say there's 2 drafts. There's the quarterback draft, and then there's the draft for everybody else. So we'll find out how the quarterback draft impacts the Titans this morning and talk about 3 guys in particular to see what happened at 7th overall, what could happen in the second round and later rounds for the Titans in this NFL draft. And Zach, of course, it's the age game on this Monday. So going to see what the age game has in store. Still trying to find myself on the leaderboard in this new age game setup, but maybe we can get closer this time around.
You should be able to get this. I think it makes a lot of sense. Dots have been connected. I think it's just about going back into the timeline. Now, this particular individual recently changed ages, so you're going to have to combat that, and that's the only hint that I'm going to give you. So age game on the horizon at the end of the show. We got a big show today on this Monday as the NFL draft is creeping closer and closer and closer on this Monday morning. It's also tax day, so make sure you pay your taxes April 15th. We're broadcasting live on 3 different platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We got you covered there. We'll tweet out link by link, segment by segment on our Twitter handle at A to Z Sports. So follow us at ATOZ Sports. Follow us there on Twitter for a good time if you are a Titans fan for a long time. After we tweet out those links, you need to head on over to YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. We got 3 things to ask you. Subscribe. That's the easiest thing. If you've already subscribed, like this video. It helps the algorithm and get more people in here to grow our community. That's what we're trying to do. And thirdly, ring the bell. If you can ring the bell, that means you get live alerts when we go live in the mornings on our morning show at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. Or you've got Sunday through Thursday with Buck Primetime, and some things are evolving there too. So that is very valuable for individually you to have those live alerts on YouTube. Facebook, what's going on, Facebookers? Bottom left corner of your screen, share now to public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing on this show, as we say. Share the show around, and we need to pop up in your Facebook friends newsfeed. How that works is you guys share the show. So a lot to get to on this Monday morning, talking QBs, and we'll probably talk about how Austin, you got a nice do today. So we'll talk about that after the official start of the show. Let's get this party started.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the shows segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. That's at A to Z Sports. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. We got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans at fbhp.com/ATOZ for a quote. And Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations across the mid-state, or online at KrebsKubota.com. So, Zach, we do have a super chat out of the gates, and that's King VC, who is turning this into a regular thing, which I love. He says, chat challenge, average 100 likes all week, lock in, like the show now. I think that's low, VC, but hey,
let's start there. Let's start there. So, King VC, I like this. After our age game, prior to the end of the show, we will look down and see. We're going to have to take something away from the chat if we don't achieve it. So, look, there are rewards when you accomplish goals. There are punishments when you don't. So 100 is what we're trying to get to, right? And that's average.
Both, right? That's Facebook and YouTube, not just total.
So we'll take an assessment at the end of the show and see where we are. So I like that, King VC. The other thing that I like is I think this is the first time in a very long time, Austin, that we've had more comments about your hair than my hair. And I'll take that every day of the week. I do screenshot some of them and send them to my wife because it's hilarious of how you guys have been dragging me. But I think today, and I don't think they're dragging you. I just think that they're a little surprised with the change of hair.
Yeah, and the Magic Bucket does what the Magic Bucket wants to do. And this is what I meant to do this on Friday, but I had to get up in the attic and didn't have time to do that Friday morning before the show. Oh, look,
you keep your wigs in the attic. Okay, so now we know a little bit more about you.
It's in the Halloween bin. Does everybody have a Halloween bin, or is that just me? We have a Halloween bin that is also doubles as the Magic Bucket bin as well. But appreciate the compliment, Karen. I do think Jake is correct. This has a strong Ashley Schaefer look to it from Eastbound and Down, and so I accept that. I do think. Look, I don't hate it. I think this is kind of what you're going for, right, Zach? Except you're not trying to be like the icy white like this. But you're going for this type of length and this type of look.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That takes a long time. You're gonna get tired of me saying I'm going through a phase if I'm trying to get there. So I don't know. But it's a journey. So we'll see. We'll see if I can match that energy.
I don't like hate the way I look at it. Like, it actually doesn't look that
yeah, you kind of look weirdly normal.
Other than it just being white, it doesn't look that bad. Now I can probably put it in a pony and see what happens there, but I don't have my hair ties on me, All right, so let's get this thing rolling here, Zach. A lot of other comments that I saw as you straight down to your plums. Jake Hughes is bringing that in. Well played there, Jake. But as we get into this conversation about quarterbacks, I see comments in the chat being like, what do you mean? How can quarterbacks impact the Titans NFL draft? Which means, hey, we got you. That's why we're here to talk about this show. So Zach, curious your thoughts on what I said in the cold open, the two drafts. There's a quarterback draft and there's a draft for everybody else. So how do you kind of envision this quarterback draft that has been a really big time talking point so far in this draft cycle?
Well, I think it starts here. The draft is a very weird place at times. And I'll expand by Caleb Williams is going to be selected first, the Chicago Bears. That's not going to be weird. You have that at times. But Austin, where did we think Malik Willis was going to get drafted about a week, 2 days before the draft actually happened? Where did we think Will Levis was going to be drafted 2 to 3 days before the draft? It ebbs and flows. So you have different, quarterback rankings. And I think those are somewhat standard of Drake Maye and Jaden Daniels. But teams like particular quarterbacks that other teams don't, and vice versa. And that's what makes the draft so unique. And then it gets to the point, we'll expand on this as the show goes on, but then it gets to, is this a valued pick at a valued position? The Titans took that stance last year where they tried, it was documented, they tried to trade up in the first round to get the fifth-year option, and that tells all of us that they saw value in where Will Levis was at that point in the draft to draft him. They ended up having to trade up to the second round, draft him in the second round, and he is the starting quarterback for the foreseeable future as we go into this draft. But you don't know how this thing is going to shake out, and you don't know how needy teams can be, because as I'll kind of close on this, as running back has evolved in a certain way, quarterback and wide receiver, tackle, defensive lineman, they have evolved themselves. And I think we can all agree the quarterback position has evolved into, as I've always said, the most important singular position in team sport is the quarterback. So it can shake things up and make other teams do something that they maybe wouldn't naturally do, and then create value for other teams that are willing to trade to get more draft capital based on where they are in their roster build.
Yeah, for sure. And so then you have teams at the top, like the Patriots and the Commanders. We know Caleb Williams is one. The Patriots and Commanders, Commanders then Patriots at 2 and 3. What is their flavor? Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner, is a different type of quarterback than Drake Maye from North Carolina, who has been a highly touted draft prospect for a couple of years now. And so do the Commanders want to double dip and go North Carolina quarterbacks in a couple drafts in a row here with Sam Howell and then Drake Maye, or do you ride the hot hand with Jaden Daniels and his unique play style? The Patriots are sitting behind the Commanders, and what do they want to do? Because do they want to just take whichever of those two guys doesn't go at 2 in their laps at 3? It's a kind of a new era in New England. We think that Gerard Mayo is different than Bill Belichick, but a lot of it feels very similar. So do they take somebody like if let's just say like Washington goes with Drake Maye? Does New England like Jaden Daniels? Is Jaden Daniels' dual threat ability something that we haven't seen that in New England really ever? Cam Newton there for a year, but does that really count? Or is that just trying to get yourself some more, a bridge through the next situation? But it's very fascinating because then JJ McCarthy is also sitting there as well. And that has been the guy who I think a lot of this draft hinges on what happens with JJ McCarthy and how high does he go, who trades up, how high and with who to get JJ McCarthy, and what are the dominoes that fall after JJ McCarthy gets drafted, wherever that may be.
Well, and JJ McCarthy, I think the benefit for him, I actually want to ask you a side question because I'm curious. Okay. But for JJ McCarthy, he's put together multiple very quality college football seasons, right? Ending as a champion and playing in tough games. Now, Michigan, we can go through their schedule of the last 2 years and laugh all the way to the bank because it's been just a cakewalk.
They have a 1 or 2 game schedule, right? Like, that's what happened. That's why,
and that's going to change, right? So, like, the good part is the college football has finally evolved. Now that's going to change. In Michigan and Ohio State and Michigan State, all those, now you have to play some better competition. Welcome to an SEC type schedule, but there is value in winning, right? And that's something that Drake Maye really hasn't done, right? You have a case of Drake Maye having some of the intangibles of arm strength and accuracy and looking good in the meat market, but he doesn't have like the on-field resume, in my opinion. And he was in a high-flying offense, and the NFL, you're gonna have to work for those throwing yards, right? It's just a different game. And then you had Jaden Daniels that had Maye. Maye, right? And then you have kind of breaking down those three. Then you had Jaden Daniels that had an all-world year at LSU at output. And why? Because he had the benefit of who he was throwing to in an offense that worked that type of way. And LSU kind of fell short of their expectations because of losses, multiple defense, losses, right? And bad defense. But here's my side
historically question. Bad defense for LSU teams, yeah.
Here's my side question. Who do you think is going to be a better pro, Jaden Daniels or Drake Maye? Because right now we kind of think that those two quarterbacks are next in line after Caleb Williams, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I mean, I really like Jaden Daniels a lot. I think he is super talented and has the intangibles of the guy who can create on his own. I honestly haven't watched a lot of Drake Maye, but I do know that he has some timely interceptions. There was a lot on his plate at North Carolina, being the guy that had to do everything for them to have a chance to win games the last couple of years. I think Jaden Daniels is my favorite because of key, huge moments that Jaden Daniels came up big. He had the Heisman Trophy moments in Tuscaloosa against Alabama with the 2-point conversion to win the game, where all of that's, there is some, I think Jaden Daniels is my guy over Drake Maye. And something I won't forget, Travis May, who is our college football editor for A2ZSports.com, and we'll talk more about that throughout the summer. When we were talking to Travis in the interview process, he had a stat that Drake Maye is one of the most sacked quarterbacks in college football, and he is responsible for such a high percentage of those sacks. Not his O-line, but the quarterback responsible for that. How does that translate in the NFL? I'm going to watch that. I don't know. I think Drake Maye is going to go to a team that probably has a less than offensive line because of where he's being picked and where, why teams are bad a lot of times. And so I think I go with Jaden Daniels because he's got escapability, playmaking ability, and the arm to do it all. And Drake Maye, I don't know fully if he's going to translate well in the league when it comes to pocket presence.
So I agree with you. My pick is Jaden Daniels as being a better pro. And Borkington says Drake Maye feels kind of like Will Levis last year at Kentucky. Yeah. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if Drake Maye fell. You always have kind of a surprise of, wow, it's a free fall. And it doesn't feel as like a free fall because there's always going to be a team that picks him and the draft moves on and then it's Saturday and we kind of look back. Revisionist history of looking back. I wouldn't be surprised if Drake Maye, if JJ McCarthy's stock, I feel like is rising. And I feel like Drake Maye stock is kind of sputtered out. Now, it may sputter out in the top 3 because that's kind of where he's presumed to be picked. But I wanted to get those two out of the way. Caleb Williams is also another conversation where I think he has all the talent in the world. That's why. So sometimes you just have to lean into that and figure it out. But it doesn't always work. Jamarcus Russell is a great example. I'm not saying Caleb Williams is going to be Jamarcus Russell, but all the talent in the world. Vince Young, playmaking, all the playmaking ability in the world. Both those guys didn't work out. So it is a crapshoot a little bit.
Yeah, I think Caleb Williams and just the ability to throw the football compared to Jamarcus and Vince Young, very different, who relied on different playmaking skill sets. But let's talk about JJ McCarthy. As I mentioned a couple minutes ago, I believe this NFL draft hinges on where and what happens with JJ McCarthy. Where does he go and how does that impact the Tennessee Titans? So let's get the chat more involved here this morning with our initial question. Do you think JJ McCarthy will be drafted before the Titans are on the clock at 7th overall? So the question is yes or no. Do you think JJ McCarthy will be drafted before the Titans are on the clock at 7th overall? We'll get to all of your comments here in the chat. Those likes are starting to climb. VC wants to average 100 likes per day, each platform on the show. We're working towards that. But first, let me tell you guys about Krebs Kubota and KrebsKubota.com. They are Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment provider and an elite Kubota dealer. What an elite Kubota dealer means is that they have the best equipment in the industry to go with Kubota and the best warranties in the industry with the Kubota National line as well. They've got 3 locations across the mid-state in Columbia, where it all started over 18 years ago. And this family-owned and operated company has been able to grow based on their success. So Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro, there are 3 locations across the mid-state to serve you right there with whatever your equipment needs are, whether you need something small, a trimmer, a mower, for whatever your property and yard situation may be. Maybe you've got a couple hills, ditches, tough things to trim. Maybe you have a tough riding situation as well, but you need to know you have the right mower, trimmer to go with your yard. Maybe you've got a commercial space that you need to take care of the right way. They've got everything, small and big, the power units, the implementations to go along with it, and the expertise to help you through it all to buy or rent the right equipment for you online at KrebsKubota.com.
A to Z Sports, we're powered by BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports. You had the Masters yesterday. You had college baseball. You had MLB. You had a ton of different things going on yesterday. The closing of the NBA leading into the playoffs this week. Play-in games. You got great opportunity at BetMGM to get in there and win some cash. You can be a big winner, but if you are a new user, make sure you use the bonus code ATOZ Sports and download the BetMGM app in your Apple or Android within their app store.
Yeah, I hope everybody at least put something on Scotty Scheffler to win yesterday, because if you didn't, you just missed out on some extra free coin. Yep. I definitely did that as well, and used a BetMGM odds boost on it too. So, Zach, to the chat, I send you, and that is the question today. Will JJ McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan, be drafted before the Titans are on the clock at 7th overall? That seems to be the first massive domino that could alter the top of the draft. Will it be before the Titans are on the clock at 7th overall? Zach, what's the chat saying?
So a lot of answers. So the question, to reiterate, it is, do you think that JJ McCarthy will be drafted prior to the Titans being on the clock, right?
So in the first
yes
six
or
picks.
no, right? So yeah, in the first 6 picks. Trevor says no, he will not be drafted. Mikhail says yes. Titans Kyle says no. Randy says yes. Ashley says yes. Jason says yes. Billy Jones goes with no. So does Rashid. So does Lou Man. So does Eric. So a string of no's right there. Here's a string of yeses with Denise, Nick Ewing, Michael Snyder, and Carlos. Jay is going with no. Hard no from Hello Ladies. Johnny says no. So does Jason. A couple of yes, or a few yeses coming in from Stevie, David Johnson, Caps, and Chris Frazier. All say he will be. Raz says no. Rooney says yes, along with Lucas. Patrick Bird says no, he will be drafted at 7. So insinuating that the Titans would trade with somebody for somebody to take them. And I think this is the value of the conversation. The impact of quarterbacks impact the Titans because they have a top 7 pick. Giants or Patriots from Jody saying yes. Karen says no. Jaron says yes. Koss says yes. IR says yes. So does David. Caleb is going with no. So is Paul. So, I mean, there's a plethora of answers coming in the chat of yes, no, and look, maybe doesn't count there, and unfortunately, but if no trade back, then no. Okay, so eventually answers it. So that's fair. I think this is a unique question because, and I want to get your answer, Austin, but I'll kind of ask you this.
Okay.
Does this mean that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks drafted before 7, right? Does this solidify that there's 4? Does this mean there's more? I mean,
I think 4 quarterbacks.
That opens the door to a lot of things prior to 7.
Yeah, 4 quarterbacks in the top 6 is something that I think is more likely to happen than not. So my answer is yes. I do think JJ McCarthy will be drafted before the Titans are at 7. Now the question is McCarthy going to be the 3rd quarterback or the 4th quarterback gone? Because you just mentioned in the first segment of, does Drake Maye have a slide? Is there a team that likes JJ McCarthy more than Drake Maye or more than Jaden Daniels? And I think that's the hidden thing, because ever since the Vikings traded with the Texans for the 23rd pick to go along with their 11th pick, everybody's like, oh, there he is. The Vikings going to move up from 11 to go get JJ McCarthy because they got to have somebody. Sam Darnold isn't going to make Justin Jefferson happy. If Justin Jefferson is turning down a contract that's reportedly offered over $30 million a year, maybe he did that because they don't have a quarterback plan. Or maybe he just wants $35 million or he's waiting for that quarterback plan, right? So everybody's connected the Vikings to McCarthy dots, but is it somebody else? And so I think, yes, JJ McCarthy will be gone before the Titans are on the clock. And I honestly do believe that 4 quarterbacks will be gone before the Titans are on the clock. And if there's only 3 quarterbacks gone and one's still on the board when the Titans are there at 7, that opens up a world of possibilities for Rand Carthon.
Yeah, well, and I think, we talk about the big 2 at 7 for the Titans, and that is Neighbors and Alt. And if you're in that situation, maybe you don't trade, right? Because there's 2 quality. I mean, that's another tough decision that I feel like gets maybe a little bit more dismissed than it should. But those are 2 key players that can play right away, right? I mean, when you're a top 7 pick, you can be an immediate impact. Doesn't mean that you will, but you can. That's why you are valued as the 7th best player in the NFL draft. This is a tough one for me because my gut, I'll just tell you, my gut is saying that a quarterback is going to fall.
Okay.
And so I'll answer it, and I will say no. I think that McCarthy or Drake Maye, I think those are the two. One of those two could fall. And
Okay.
I think that then opens up the draft to another theory. My biggest fear of the draft, well, I'm going to hold that off. We've got 2 weeks before the draft. I'll hold off my biggest fear of the draft because I do think that's a good conversation. But I just think a quarterback is going to drop. I haven't seen enough JJ McCarthy's. Like JJ McCarthy feels to me that he could fall, or even Drake Maye could fall. And you kind of be patient, because if you look at the back half of the draft, there's not that many needy QB teams.
Yeah, well,
right.
let's look at this. Yes, let's look at the graphic that we made for JJ McCarthy here, because we've got quarterback needy teams that could get JJ McCarthy in the first round. And I think New England deserves to be on this list, because what if the Patriots like JJ McCarthy better than Drake Maye or better than Jane Daniels, whoever doesn't go to the Commanders? Then you've got the trade up candidates, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Denver Broncos, and the Minnesota Vikings, who are all 11 through 13 right there in the first round, that might be wanting to jump each other. We know the Vikings have multiple first round picks to move. The Raiders have a second round that's fairly high. The Broncos, the tough thing for them is they don't have a second or third round pick this year because of the fallout from the Russell Wilson move. So what happens with the Broncos? It's going to be really tough for them to trade up. They're going to have to give up so much to go up to get a quarterback. So they might be likely to sit at 12 if somebody falls all the way. But if you're also the Broncos, I don't think McCarthy gets by the Vikings at 11 if they don't move up to get him. So I think,
but doesn't that make sense? Austin, if you sat there and you said JJ McCarthy was drafted number 11 overall by the Minnesota Vikings, I think that makes perfect sense to me. I think trading up into a top 7 pick, those teams are going to hold you hostage. And they should. Like, the Titans should hold whatever team wants to come up and draft a quarterback hostage, because that means they're not going to get Joe Alt or Malik Neighbors. Just facts. And those are 2 players that we have easily targeted they need. Whether it's Brian Callahan needs another weapon at wide receiver, or they need somebody, which they do, to protect their young QB at left tackle because they don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go and go back-to-back comments with Ann. Ann says, this is giving Anthony Richardson versus Will Levis, who will fall and who will go vibes. And I agree with Ann right there. It is who will stay and stick and actually get drafted, and who is going to free fall and be like, oh no, oh no. Now, I don't think it will fall maybe to the second round in this case, because Austin, you said it perfectly with Denver's situation. If JJ McCarthy falls to Denver's position, where do they draft?
12.
You have to draft. You're drafted a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the difference, is they're not going to fall to the second, but they'll fall to 12. And that's why I think Minnesota traded up to where their spot is. They're not naive to that.
Well, Minnesota trade up for 23. Minnesota's been ahead of Denver the whole time at 11. I think it's the art of the using the phones of, well, the Raiders, who have been very vocal about wanting quarterback in the draft too. The Raiders are at 13. The Vikings are at 11. And previously, before free agency, the Falcons at 8 were a quarterback potential spot, because, and then Kirk Cousins are no longer that. So, and then there's the Giants. There's somebody just mentioned in the chat, they believe the Giants could be a quarterback team right there at 6. That's why you've got Arizona and the Chargers right there at 4 and 5 that are peak trade up spots for somebody that wants to make sure they get the 4th quarterback. Because waiting until 12, the Broncos are going to be forced to do because of their situation. But the Vikings and the Raiders, I think, is who is really dueling out and who can play chicken the best.
And, with the Giants, if you look at their situation, I just went and confirmed this. Daniel Jones signed a 4-year contract. He's in the second year of his 4-year deal. They gave him kind of like the Blake Bortles deal, where you got to pay the guy a lot of money, but you're not having to pay him, hundreds of millions of dollars. Their potential out within that contract is after 2024. So after this season, this, Austin, gives you the Kurt Warner, Eli Manning type grooming period, right? Where you get 1 year where Daniel Jones can create his value, but the likeliness, if you look at the Giants roster, they're going to be bad. They stink.
And here's the other caveat to the Giants is that Brian Daboll, who was the coach of the year not too long ago, if he has another really, really bad season, what is he? Out, right? And the GM not doing a great job too, because they hitched their wagon to Daniel Jones. There could be the old, they'll keep a new quarterback in your back pocket to save your own ass for a couple more years type of move. If the Giants can get a quarterback early in the draft, does that help extend Brian Daboll's head coaching career?
I think that, Austin, you bring that point up. Absolutely. Daboll should find his quarterback. Because he didn't draft Daniel Jones.
No, he inherited him, yeah.
So you now, and New York, let's just face it, you'll be gone in a New York minute real quick. They're not patient. So I think you go down with the ship with your guy, and that helps the Titans, because the other team that is looking at Malik Neighbors are the New York Giants, because they don't have anybody to throw to, right? So it goes to what your point could be, though, is that 4 quarterbacks could now be drafted before the Titans. So, very unique. This is the best part about the draft, is like, we don't know. What are these teams are actually going to think? Quarterback happy. We have seen a trend, though, Austin, over the last several years. Teams are more willing to trade to get their quarterback, I think more so than ever. We've seen that. And they are willing to draft more quarterbacks at a higher clip. It used to be, let's say 15 to 17 years ago, you draft a quarterback and it takes 5 years, and then you finally just try to figure, no. If you don't like your quarterback after 3, you draft another one.
Yep. And there's a lot of teams looking to do that. All right, so Zach, we've talked about JJ McCarthy. I say yes, he is drafted before the Titans on the clock at 7. You're still sticking with no as your answer?
I think he falls to the Minnesota-Denver era. And
you don't think somebody jumps up?
I think it's going to be the cost of living is going to be too high. I just think that you're going to have to really love your pick to trade away, because Austin, it's going to take a future first rounder. It's going to take multiple picks, including a future first rounder. I think the cost is going to be like, well, let's wait and see, because then, and we'll get to this, but then you've got the second rung of quarterbacks, right? That, what do you see value in that, and how do teams view those guys?
That's exactly where I was about to head next, and we'll talk about Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. Here in a second. But first, Zach, tell everybody about our great partners at Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Yeah, FBHP.com is where to go to get your health plan. You see there right up on the screen, health, dental, and vision. They've got 200 plus locations all across the state of Tennessee, over 75 years in service. So if you're in the state of Tennessee, they've got a perfect plan for you and your family. You just have to figure it out. And how you figure it out is you call them or go online to fbhp.com/A to Z. You schedule a health assessment. It's over the phone. You answer a bunch of questions. I've been through it before. Then you wait about 24 to 48 hours, and they give you a quote. That quote you then can compare to your current plan. And look, they give good quotes. That's one of the many reasons why we endorse them here on A to Z Sports. Once you find your quote, you make a decision. Is it the best plan for you and your family? If it's yes, it's simple. Boom. You're up and going right there at Farm Bureau Health Plans of Tennessee. That's fbhp.com/ATOZ.
I already said it. He had to put a little bit on Scotty to win yesterday. I did a BetMGM use one of their odds boost for the Masters and was able to cash in on that over the weekend. And you can always win big with our bonus code ATOZ Sports. That's when you sign up with the BetMGM app, you go big with your first bet, because no sweat if you miss it. Because if you miss that first bet, you get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. That's only when you sign up with our code ATOZ Sports with the BetMGM app. It's almost playoff time and a couple other major sports to get into the spring and the summer a little deeper with BetMGM. A lot of fun to do that this spring and summer. So always sign up with our code at ATOZ Sports with BetMGM to get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. If that first bet misses, visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only, new customer offer. All promotions, subject to qualification, and eligible requirements. First online real money wager only. Rewards issued with non-double bonus bets, and bonus bets expire in 7 days. And for problem game of sport, call Tennessee Redline at 800-889-9789. So, Zach, we talked a lot about JJ McCarthy and the potential landing spots for JJ McCarthy in the first round. New England is right there at 3, depending on their preference. Then you've got the trade-up candidates with Las Vegas, Denver, and Minnesota. And the Giants, the wild card, sitting there at 6th overall. But then there's 2 other quarterbacks that came from the Pac-12. They're headed to the Big Ten now, in Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. What is the likeliness of one of those guys going in the first round as a 5th quarterback, or maybe in the 2nd round as these guys? So I want to show this right here, because you've got potential suitors for these 2. What if New England, as it's been rumored, trades back from 3, and then they could go quarterback in the 2nd round? Then you've got Minnesota again, Miami, the Rams, Seahawks, Raiders, Giants. Maybe they pass on quarterback in the first round and could go quarterback high in the 2nd round. But Zach, what is your opinion on Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. before we get the chat involved?
Well, first, I want to get to the New England thing, because I need to be explained that. That makes no sense to me. I think is irresponsible. Like, it doesn't make any sense for the Patriots to not draft a quarterback at the current position that they're in after getting rid of the Hall of Fame or best head coach in the history of the game, right? They moved on. That's okay. They don't have a quarterback after they've struggled through Mac Jones for the last several years. And now they have – that would be asinine. That is not something that the Patriots are going to do, will do. Even the notion of that, I don't see that.
I think the caveat is we don't know which quarterbacks the Patriots prefer and who they maybe don't like. I agree with you. If the Patriots don't get a quarterback at 3, I think it's dumb. And it's probably leading towards Gerard Mayo's tenure not being super long.
Yeah, he's never going to do that.
We just don't know what the structure is, because the Patriots have not had a general manager separate from the head coach in 25 years or whatever. It's different. We have to figure out.
Yeah, but this is the easiest decision that they've ever had.
But what if they don't like Drake May?
Too damn bad. You have to draft him.
But too bad. What if they don't like Drake May? What if they don't believe JJ McCarthy has what it takes to? Because it's a high pressure situation. I don't know. What if they like Bo Nix better? What if they really like Bo Nix and they think they can trade back because somebody's desperate enough to come up to 3 and they get a bunch of picks because the Patriots have a lot of problems? And they get Bo Nix at, what if they move back with the Vikings and they can get Bo Nix at 23 after getting an offensive lineman at 11? I'm making stuff up on the fly because we don't know what the Patriots prefer. I'm trying to answer your question. I'm playing. I agree with you, but I'm trying to figure out what the Patriots could be thinking and why I don't think it's not smart to automatically assume the Patriots are going to get whoever's not drafted at 2 to the Commanders and just take them at 3. I think we have to keep an open mind.
I disagree with you. I think keeping an open mind is probably smart. In this situation, I don't. It's like the Bears not drafting Caleb Williams. Like, everything that they have done to this point says that they're going to draft Caleb Williams. They're going to draft Caleb Williams. Everything that the Patriots have done to this point by losing all of those games and firing their head coach, hiring a defensive head coach, right? What does a defensive head coach want and need more than anything in this world over the last several years that we've seen in this league?
Probably a pass rusher. A quarterback.
Thank you. I was not going to leave until you said that, because that's the answer. So I am personally going to remove New England off the list. If you want to throw that graphic, They shouldn't have been on the list in the first place, in my opinion. So let's go.
Trying to cover all bases, right? So here's the graphic of potential suitors for Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. If a quarterback is not taken by these guys in the first round. This is, maybe late first, maybe second round quarterbacks. You see Miami, the Rams as successors to Tua and Stafford, the Seahawks. You've got Geno Smith there with a Ryan Tannehill type contract they could get out of if they want. We've talked through the Giant situation. Maybe they go Malik Neighbors at 6, and then they get their quarterback in the second round. And then the Las Vegas Raiders, if they don't draft a quarterback at 13, if they get a quarterback in the second round there too. So there's those other teams if you want to take away New England from that.
Yeah, I'll narrow it down to 3. Seattle, Miami, and the Rams. I think those are the 3 because as you just described them, you've got a team already with a quarterback, right? That's the type of situation that these 2 players need to go into. They don't need the pressure. It's like Will Levis last year. They drafted Will Levis because they already had Ryan Tannehill for a year. And honestly, wouldn't you say, it worked out very well for them. They got an opportunity to see Will Levis due to an injury because they were so bad at offensive line that Tannehill gets hurt, gets healthy, and they stick with their young guy because of his performance. Now it's a clear path of how this young quarterback is going to kind of submit or try to submit his way into a starting lineup consistently. Miami's not going to drop off totally. They have too many weapons, and Tua's proven that he can be a good quarterback. He's trying to prove that he can be a great. I don't think anybody thinks that he can. I just think he's just short. He's not that guy. Matthew Stafford, father time's ticking, right? You're going to need another replacement. And we don't know how long, McVay, we don't know the future as that goes. And then I think Seattle, because Geno is a Band-Aid kind of like Ryan Tannehill. His ceiling is what his ceiling is. You can get to the playoffs, but you're going to lose to the 49ers again. And then the next year, you're going to lose to the 49ers again. Mm-hmm. And then the 49ers are then going to prevent you from getting there because you can't win your division. So those 3 teams need a backup plan that could be better than their current situation and I think Minnesota will already take their guy. The Raiders are unique because they're kind of in prime position and they're needy. They don't have a guy. Who's their current quarterback?
Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell.
No, thank you.
I honestly think all of these teams, minus New England and Minnesota, could draft a quarterback in the second round. I think Miami's probably least likely, but I think the Rams, the Seahawks, the Giants, and the Raiders could be real players in this.
But also, I want to say something about Miami. Miami can then justify moving on from Tua after he wins a playoff game and loses in the divisional round, right? Because I think Miami, the worry that they're in is they're going to have to make the decision to pay Tua or not, or move on from him. And if he wins a playoff game and loses in the divisional round, Miami's going to be picking 20-something, and they're not going to be there. I think, and who knows what next year's quarterback draft class is, but it helps your decision a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So,
all right, well, let's ask a question about these quarterbacks, and I'm going to tell you all how I think this really could impact the Titans in the 2024 NFL draft. So the question about these quarterbacks is, who do you value more in the second round? Would it be Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington or Bo Nix out of Oregon? Who do you value more in the second round, Penix Jr. or Bo Nix? I'll tell you how I think this could impact the Titans. But first, the Bone and Joint Institute is where you should turn for all of your injury needs. Injuries happen in life, just like in football. Injury rate is pretty high. And unfortunately, they happen and make things inconvenient for you. Make sure that you know where to turn and who you can trust to get back on the road to recovery, to take care of that injury the way you should. And that's the Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic in sports medicine care. Don't fumble on that recovery and go trust their experts because they got them all under one roof in Franklin, Tennessee, right off I-65 and Highway 96. It's so easy to get to and convenient for you because they do everything in that one campus, whether it's the clinics, the surgery center, the testing and imaging, plus the rehab facility that is state-of-the-art right there with all the experts for you. And it's so easy to book an appointment when you need it at boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports were powered by BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. You get, and this is huge for everybody that downloads it and is a new user, up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses for new users. You got to use this bonus code right down here, ATOZSPORTS, all one word. You make sure you put that in the bonus code tab when you sign up. They're hooking people up. NBA playoffs getting ready. This is my time of year because the defense ratchets up. You can't play the overs when the Sacramento Kings play. I mean, you can, but Vegas, look, now this is, you can steal some games early on in these playoffs, right? As Vegas tries to figure it out and you try to figure it out against Vegas. That's BetMGM. Download the app today.
All right, so we asked the question, who is more valuable to you as a quarterback prospect in the second round, Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix? So, Zach, I'll send you the chat, and then I'll update on how I think that this can impact the Titans.
Let's see here. Mark D goes with Bo Nix. So does Daniel. Steve goes Penix. So does Dre. So two and two. Lou Man goes Bo. Darius says Penix. Now we've got a string of Penix. Big Ten Jeff is going Penix. Bo Nix threw too many screens in that West Coast offense over Oregon. He resurrected his career at Oregon, though, right? I mean, leaving Auburn, it was the best decision that he could have made. Michael Penix Jr. coming in from Michael, Bo Nix from Carpet King. Eric says Penix, 100%. Penix clears right there. Just says Penix. This is easy. Nix. But we have Levis, so I don't care. Well, I think IR, you should care. Also, you want to explain why IR should care at the top of the second round?
Yeah, because what happened with the Titans last year? They weren't going to pick at 33rd overall. They were going to pick at like 42, but they moved up to get Will Levis at 33 overall at the top of the second round. And so I think that there will be a quarterback. One of these two guys will be drafted before the Titans at 38th overall via a trade-up. I don't know which one. That's kind of what we're talking through here. Is it Bo Nix or Michael Penix, who is more valuable? But I think at least one is going to be gone ahead of the Titans' 38th overall pick. And so I think that's something where, then the Titans become pretty valuable too. So that's why you should care, IR and others.
Yeah. Jason says Penix, Bo Nix from Rooney, Nix from Willie. Big Penix energy from Big Ten Jeff. Penix Jr. Nix is too old from Mike Peck. Jaron says Penix Jr. So Penix is starting to kind of run away a little bit as the chat continues to pick Penix. And we saw, and I think a lot more people saw Penix because of his run to the national championship game. Austin, I have my opinions on Penix, but I'm going to throw this out there and I'm going to have you answer. Okay. What do you think about him being a left-handed quarterback? I mean,
look, as a
name great left-handed quarterbacks outside of Steve Young.
Great. I mean, there's only one currently in the league, and it's Tua. One starting left-handed quarterback.
I know. Is that something or nothing? Yeah, but Tua. Nobody thinks that Tua.
I'm just giving you the Michael Vick, lefty, had great moments, but still, does it matter? I don't think it matters. Because of, and Sam and I talked about this. Maybe it was Friday. Maybe it was Jack and I don't remember, but edge rushers or top edge rushers are playing both sides of the line. You got to have a right tackle who can pass protect too, with a right-handed quarterback to not just protect the blind side.
But why? And why haven't there been more left-handed quarterbacks that have really cemented themselves as a long-term starter in this league. They're droplets. They're here and there. They're not like, why is that?
I have no idea. I mean, I know as a lefty growing up, I learned how to pitch, but I had more coaching on how to pitch a baseball before learning to throw a football. And lefties pitching is more important or a better value there. I don't know why there's so few left-handed quarterbacks. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get why there's not, or why people are scared of them. It's not that big of a difference. The ball spins the opposite way. Who cares? You catch it. It's still spinning. It's not like it's that different. And there's not as many left-handed people as Billy brings up.
I do want to correct this because this is why you got to check your you got to check your sources. MB, this is wrong. I was like, there's no way it's only 1% of the world's left-handed. That's wrong. So MB, that's incorrect.
Way higher than that.
Yeah, it's like 10%, maybe 13. So I'm not saying it's a huge majority, but it's more.
There you go.
1%.
What's 10% of 32? 1.2. Tua. Boom. 1 of 32. Maybe that's just right.
Maybe it's the numbers.
That's your answer.
And I'm not saying I'm always curious. And look, I was friends with Chris Sims for a time. He was left-handed, and he could sling it, but he didn't work out, right? Better broadcaster than player. Some may not like him.
I guess that's wrong math. That would be 3.2.
3. Yeah. 10% is 3. So,
no live math. Come on. Even if it's just moving.
You did the live math. I
convinced you. You took it though. Like you're like, yeah, you're right.
Well, low percentage, fair.
But but still not low. So you're talking about one of the more important positions in all pro sports is a quarterback. And so, yeah, it's slightly lower percentages than the.
So then, Austin, I'll have my answer. I'm going with the percentages. I'm taking Bo Nix because Michael Penix Jr. is left-handed.
So that's fine. I think they both have holes in their game. I think Michael Penix Jr. will go higher than Bo Nix. That is my guess.
Do you think that is correct?
I think it's. These two guys are very much dependent on scheme. Bo Nix is, as somebody mentioned early, screens, quick passes, over the middle. That's his bread and butter. Michael Penix Jr., down the field, outside the numbers, intermediate to deep throws, outside the numbers too, is where he shines. So I'll say it this way, if it's a Kyle Shanahan type offense, they're not going to go for Michael Penix Jr., in my opinion. That's not his fit. So if it's the LA Rams that we're talking about on this graphic, the LA Rams, I believe, are a Bo Nix landing spot. If it's the Raiders, that could be a Penix Jr. with what they did. Luke Getsy, who was in Chicago before this year as an offensive coordinator. Michael Penix Jr. been working with Justin Fields and with Aaron Rodgers previously. Throw the ball down the field. Maybe the Raiders are Michael Penix Jr. The New York Giants with Brian Daboll coming from the Josh Allen type offense. Maybe that's a Michael Penix Jr. spot. The Seattle Seahawks. How about this? Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator, last year's Washington Huskies offensive coordinator. That's Michael Penix Jr.
DK is, he could be used like Rome was all last season, right? Big arm, can throw it down the field. Yeah, I mean,
so I just named
the team has got to make sense. I don't disagree with that.
And so I just named more teams that fit Michael Penix Jr.'s strengths than teams that fit Bo Nix's strengths. Yeah, it just depends on, because all of these teams that we've talked about, Miami, the Rams, Seattle, the Giants, and the Raiders, all of them have to trade up into the top 6 to 8 picks of the second round to get one of these guys.
And Patrick, the Broncos and Bo Nix actually makes sense to me. I think that as you kind of said, the analogy of those teams that fit Penix, I don't know. I think the Broncos, the problem is they only have a first round pick, right? So they're going to have to really fall in love. So the likeliness, and Michael also said that this is leftism, right? Which is a new term that I've heard. I will say this: I'm not leftist, if you want to call me that, because I believe the most valuable thing that a young athlete playing basketball should learn, you have to finish with both hands. Yeah. You've got to be able to make a right and a left-handed layup. Your career will be completely different if you're able to use both your left and your right hand. So that I'm not leftist. So I will not tolerate that, Michael. Sorry.
Well, yeah, as a lefty, I learned how to fake people.
I think your audio cut out. Yeah, you may have, or you froze, or
I'm back now. Yeah,
you're back.
I'm back. Yeah, I'm back.
That's
now.
The hard part about when that happens. I don't know if it was me or if it was you, but it's definitely you. So yes. What were you saying?
It was just something stupid about being a left-handed kid as in the 90s, but it doesn't matter. Having to use those having to use spiral notebooks, that sucks. There's a lot of things in this world that are for right-handed people that lefties like me and several in the chat just have to deal with. But that's beside the point. But again, I think how this impacts the Titans is that will one of these guys go before them at 38th overall? And maybe tomorrow we can talk about some of those specific scenarios and dive into the details on what the Titans could do if one of these two guys, Penix Jr. or Bo Nix, goes between 33 and 37 and just one is on the clock at 38. Because if both are on the clock at 38, maybe somebody's not as desperate. And so maybe the Titans don't have as much interest in that 38th spot. But if there's just one left, because after these five quarterbacks these six quarterbacks that we've talked about, after Nix and Penix Jr., there is a drop-off in the quarterback spot.
And one of those out of the six could drop off with it.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's not out of the question either.
Yeah, without a doubt. Let's get to a super chat here. I'm going to go back to King VC's because we're not there yet on Facebook. I'll have to refresh the YouTube, but chat challenge average 100 likes all week. Lock in and like the show. That's on both Facebook and on YouTube. I'll have to refresh the YouTube channel.
YouTube, we're 104.
Okay, so we're there on YouTube. So Facebook's got work to do. We're just at 86. So we need some more help. So like the show there on Facebook to help us get to that 100 for a guy, King VC. And then Zachary just says, Austin, you deserve this money for the wig. Take my money. Well, it's not going in my pocket. It used to go to Sam's lunch money, but John Robinson's firing ruined all that. We can't do lunches anymore because news might break.
It'll go to a good place within A to Z.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Zach, any last thoughts on the quarterback situation that we've talked through before we get to our Monday age game here?
No, I mean, I feel like quarterback will be a massive position, and I've got to actually text myself my biggest fear of the draft. I would like to know everybody's fears one day. So maybe we can do that tomorrow or sometime next week.
That feels like a draft week show. What's your biggest fear going into the draft? I think that's interesting.
All right. So texted myself that. We got that down.
There we go. All right. Time for the Monday age game. But first, shout out to our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon. Save money on that new ride by going out to Lebanon and not succumbing to those downtown prices. Go see our guy Payne Bone and his team in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Zach, I have the chat hidden as usual for the age game process. And so curious to see what you have in store for us today. You did tease us that there is a recent birthday that goes along with this person. So
yes,
maybe round up. I don't know if that means that.
To kind of get to that point, we've had some champions, right? And Anthony was our champion last week, went into double overtime, first ever double overtime. The leader in the clubhouse is Brock Kraft, who has won twice. He is a two-time world champion at this age game. since we've launched our leaderboard. So that's who we're all chasing. This makes a lot of sense to me. And that goes to a new age team that is in sports right now that I have watched and I kind of root for. It's kind of just like a random team that you root for.
Yeah.
I've made some money off of them too. So that's an added bonus. And so if you didn't know, now you do know the youngest team in the NBA.
You asking me?
Do you know?
I actually think I do. Is it OKC?
It is OKC, the Oklahoma City Thunder that backdoored their way into a number 1 seed in the Western Conference, will now host all and be, have home games in their first 2 games throughout the course of the Western Conference playoffs. The oldest member of that team is Gordon Hayward. How old is Gordon Hayward? He is the oldest member of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And my hint to start the show I will give to everyone is his age recently changed.
So round up a year. Okay. I think I can do some dot connecting on this. Again, I had the chat hidden. So I actually thought about Gordon Hayward recently because the Tennessee Vols had a chance to make their first Final Four by making the Elite Eight this past March. The only other Elite Eight team was in the spring of 2010. Spring of 2010. Yes. So Tennessee loses to Michigan State. Michigan State in the Final Four loses to Gordon Hayward and Butler, who then loses to Duke in the national title game when Hayward had his half-court shot bank off the glass and off the front of the rim for a chance to win the title. Gordon Hayward, you said, just had his birthday recently, so it's after the tournament. Back in 2010, especially at a school like Butler, I believe he finished his eligibility. 2010, I'm going to say Gordon Hayward is 36 years old.
36 is your final answer?
Yeah, it's either 35 or 36.
Well, which is yours?
Mine's 36.
Final answer is 36. Well, Austin, history has been made. Unfortunately, it's not by you because he is not 36. But this past March, less than a month ago, Gordon Hayward turned a certain age that the first comment got. So first comment got this correct. And I tried to, it was quick, right? So you didn't have a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Not only the first comment, and now we're going to start to get some speculation of something fishy. The first comment was our defending champion.
Wow.
At 34 years old. So 2-time ties Brock Kraft and is the first comment to comment and gets it right back-to-back weeks. I'm not saying anything, but Anthony is our champion. And this is what happens when you get it right the first time. You rid every other commenter from being recognized of their. So it really is impactful. But Anthony.
So Anthony says, maybe Anthony had I'm the same age as Gordon Hayward, is what Anthony says, which is my age too. So maybe that's just something.
I'm not saying he's cheating. I'm not saying that.
Sure.
It hasn't gotten to like extreme fishiness, but that was unique. So he is on the board twice and has tied Brock Kraft times two. I need to change that second side, but two-time champion, Brock Kraft and Anthony Maye.
So
those are setting the bar higher.
So Anthony says, I can justify this. Darius Rucker's the same age as my dad. I'm the same age as Gordon Hayward. Because, like, I think everybody kind of clocks, like, when you're the same age as, like, a celebrity, right? And Gordon Hayward could have been somebody like that. I didn't realize Gordon Hayward was that young during the 2010 NCAA tournament at that point. Man.
And we had, man, I'm just looking at this. There were 3 34s right after Anthony that were all new. New names could have been up on the big board. So it's quick. Don't hurry and make sure that you're correct. But Anthony is our 2-time champion along with Brock Kraft of our age game. Gordon Hayward is 34 years old.
Okay, there you are. Okay, and congrats to Anthony. That'll do it for us. Good show talking quarterbacks in this draft and how they can possibly impact the Titans draft when it comes to next week's NFL draft. How about that? Next week's NFL draft. We're getting a lot closer. Make sure you stay tuned in. You hit that like button before you go. We're just 4 likes away from the 100 mark on Facebook to get to VC's goal this week of averaging over 100 on each platform throughout this week. So make sure you hit that like button before you get out of here. And also stay tuned as more content will come out throughout the day on A2ZSports.com, all over our social medias as well, talking Titans, reacting Titans. I know Sam and Jack and others have Titans content in the hopper for later on today. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow morning on a Tuesday. Appreciate it as always.